I've discovered that I've got a friend hanging out here. So to see them here in the barn, in this enclosure, is a pretty cool feeling. It's pretty cool to see these in place. Hey yo folks, welcome back to the Yosted. I got the soil test back on the upcoming berry patch. Now you remember several videos ago I talked about my approach to remediation of this soil by using sunflowers, and the sunflowers have sprouted over here. This is the second year in a row that we're doing it to this area. This area used to contain a lot of industrial waste. Old paint cans, rusty sheet metal roofs, a lot of old construction equipment. It was all buried here. There's one area that I never planted sunflowers that I wanted to keep as kind of a baseline to test the soil, and that's right here. This right here was kind of ground zero of where all that industrial waste was. It was spread out over this whole area, but right here there was this kind of where I'm standing, and right here was where most of the junk was piled up. And so I did a kind of a soil test on this area, knowing that there were never really sunflowers here. There was never any real remediation efforts here. And I got the results back, and they're not good. They're not good at all. The test came back, so it was flagged for lead. The soil test was flagged for lead. The safe amounts of lead in soil are 400 parts per million and below. And this came up well above that. This soil right here, it was a little over 800. Put it on the screen. I think it was like 820 or 815, something like that, parts per million, which is not good. It's not soil that you want to be messing with. Like, I don't want this dirt getting anywhere else, this soil getting anywhere else. I don't want it getting on my clothes. I don't want Henry playing in it. It's contaminated with lead. And so what does that mean? Well, there's the rest of this area, which I've been growing sunflowers on for now it's the second year. Will the sunflowers be enough to remove this heavy metal, lead, this non-water soluble heavy metal from the soil? I don't know. You read some studies that say, yeah, this works great, and you read other studies that say, no, this doesn't work at all. So we're going to find out at the end of this season when I take these sunflowers out, remove them from the property. I'm not going to compost them here. I'm not going to burn them here. I'm going to bring them to the dump, because they collect all these heavy metals. I'll test the soil again over there. As far as this area, I'm going to obviously not plant anything here, but I'll need to come up with another remediation strategy just for this. I'll probably cover this with mulch and just leave it alone, flag it off. Again, this corner of this lot was where most of the trash was buried. So no matter what happens, even if we get the soil to acceptable levels in the rest of this plot, I don't want to grow anything here. So I need to come up with an approach that I'm going to take. I'm still not sure exactly what that's going to be. This hasn't been an area where I've planted before. There might be, I don't know, is this a sunflower? There might be a spare one sunflower or two that snuck in the last planting, but this has always just been bare. So it's well over safe limits here in terms of lead, parts per million. I don't know if the rest of the patch is going to be better or not. We'll see. That's something that I'm just going to have to test at the end of the season, and of course be transparent with you guys about. We'll see how it goes. Okay, so last week I set out a trap to collect local microorganisms. It's step one in an admittedly complicated process to create kind of a fermenting inoculant for the Korean natural farming system. You can watch last week's video where I talk about it a little more in depth. But long story short, I set out a wooden box filled with rice, cooked rice, in the ground. I initially set it up over there, but I ended up moving it because there were a lot of bugs over there. And I set it in the ground, that rice in the ground, with the hope that it would collect a white fuzzy mold. That's step one in collecting this inoculant. So here's where I moved it. I haven't checked on it, believe it or not. It's been, I think, five or 6 days since I put it in the ground here. The reason you put it in the ground like this is because you want it to collect as much of the local fungus as possible. So I had covered it with mulch and leaves and sticks. And here it is. Let's see what we get. My hope is that it's not like eaten up by bugs or just rotten with no mold at all. But we're about to find out. Okay. I see white fuzzy mold. That's exactly what I wanted to see. Now there are some ants in there, which I think a few ants is probably okay, and a spider. That's all right. But by and large, what we need to collect is the mold itself, which is in there. So let's take this inside and make the second step in the process. This is IMO 1. Now I'm going to make IMO 2. Okay, so there it is. It's mostly white. There's a little bit of green mold in there, some red mold, some yellow mold. For my research on this, it's okay if there's other types of mold mixed in as long as it's predominantly the white fuzzy kind. One thing to note here, I'm not eating this. This won't ever go into something I'm consuming. This is going to be, it'll end up becoming a liquid inoculant that I'll sprinkle on things like deep bedding or compost, whether I'm using it for pigs or for our garden compost. That's the goal with this. So yes, it's mold, but no, I'm not going to eat it. I'm not going to consume it. So let's go ahead and start putting it in. It's pretty gross. I definitely have to wash my hands here. There it is. Believe it or not, it doesn't really have a horrible smell. Okay. So the next step in the IMO process is to create a 1-to-1 solution with brown sugar. So I'm going to weigh my rice. It says it's roughly 5 pounds. 5 pounds. We'll take a little bit off the tare. So as long as it's around 10 pounds when I add the brown sugar, we should be in a good spot. So I'm going to mix it up until I get to around 10 pounds. It's too much. I think we're good. We're about 1-to-1. And then I just mix it up. All right, it looks to be pretty mixed up. The texture seems to be fairly even throughout. So I'm going to go ahead and bottle up my IMO 2, this stuff, and wash my hands too. So at this point, I am literally just putting my mixture into some mason jars. I'm going to store them. I'll show you how here in a minute. But the idea is to fill them about 2/3 full, so there's a little bit of air in there. Again, the smell isn't altogether unpleasant. It's kind of a fruity scent. A bit earthy. Not what you'd expect when you're smelling a plate full of rotten food, rotten rice. All right, that's perfect. These 2 mason jars are filled with my IMO 2. I'm going to put them in a cool, dark place for the next 7 days, label them, and at that point, I can keep them in the fridge. They're fridge stable for months before I actually start creating soil and inoculant to use in a pig bedding station. So let's go ahead and do that. Yeah, phase 2, IMO 2 is complete. I'm pretty excited about it. As I'm working, I've discovered that I've got a friend hanging out here in the breezeway of my barn. A skunk. All my tools and stuff are in that wheelbarrow. And there he is. Which makes doing this fence an interesting process. You could skedaddle, you know? Maybe that's something you can do. What do you think there, bud? Ever since I've been turning the electric fence on at night, the good news is that there's far less animals getting into the chicken run. The bad news is a lot of them hang out and collect in this area of the barn, the breezeway. I have a feeling this skunk's been here since last night. Nope, I startled him. Let's get going, bud. I think we're good. Yeah, we're good.
Looking good.
Nice. So we're getting closer in here. It's encouraging to see the progress. We just need to put up 2 more posts, finish out the fencing, and then we have a complete enclosure. There are some changes I will need to make to these gates. I'm going to put hardware cloth on the bottom. Maybe, I don't know, 3 feet high hardware cloth, and zip tie it to the bottom just to, you know, when we get pigs and their piglets, they could probably squirm their way through this. Same on that one. But otherwise, the gates themselves are great. They swing out just like I need them to do. We'll get a latch post there, a latch post there, some fencing that comes in from the other sides. And that's it. That's done. These fences were great. We got these from Tractor Supply, and they're sturdy. These will do the trick. It's cool to see them there. You see farm gates, tube-style farm gates, everywhere you go when you're driving out in the country. We never even actually had any on our property until now. So to see them here in the barn, in this enclosure, is a pretty cool feeling. It's pretty cool to see these in place. Also, I wanted to mention for our electric fence for the front chicken paddock in the front barnyard on the south side of the barn, we do light that fence up now at night. I think that's made a really big, important difference in terms of predator control. We haven't had any big predators come in some time. I think some might be able to jump over the fence, but they're not as inclined to do that when they get shocked by it. They'd rather just stay away from it completely. Needless to say, there's issues with having the fence on during the day. Obviously, little Henry's running around. And we've lost some of our bigger birds, some of our turkeys, when they get caught up in the fence and they can't escape and they just sit there and get shocked to death over and over. We've lost a couple of tom turkeys. I think one tom turkey and maybe one turkey hen to electric shock, and it's unpleasant. So during the day, I just want the fence off, but at night, I want it on. So I ended up buying this timer, and you can set what time you want it to come on and set what time you want it to come off. And so I just plug in, here's the charger. I just plug in the charger, there we go. And you'll note that this is not on. That's because it's not supposed to be. I have it come on at a little before 9 p.m. And then I have it turn off about 5:45 in the morning as the sun's starting to come out and the birds are starting to walk around. So the on time is engaged and the off time is engaged. So right now we've got no juice, no power coming to this, but come this evening it'll turn on for us. It was a good investment. Checking on the youngins there, King Lenny. So you'll note all 12 chicks that Mama Hen hatched out are alive and well. They're all here, but you'll also note that Mama's not here. Mama moved out. There she is, right over there. She was starting to get to the point where she was getting sick of being hounded by these guys all the time. She started sleeping up here at night while they're all down there. One day, I think it was 5 days ago, I said, all right, enough. I let her out, and she's been out ever since, and these guys have been doing just fine. All 12 of them. But there's a couple things I want to do. Number one, I want to start building a roost system in here. This A-frame I built several years ago to be a mobile tractor for meat chickens. And I trudged this thing all around our front pasture, and it worked great. It kept predators out. It's very heavy and cumbersome to move, but part of being heavy and cumbersome to move is it's very hard for predators to get in. So it's good at keeping predators out. However, I don't think I want to use this as a mobile chicken tractor anymore. I want to use this as a permanent coop. So when these guys grow up, I want them to use this as their home base, their coop. And the primary reason is so I can shut the door at night. I've discovered that keeping chickens in a coop at night protects them from the vast majority of predator attacks that we get. So I want to start training all new chickens I get to sleep inside, whether it's in here or in that coop over there, or one I've yet to build. So in order to do that, let's get them roosting. So I'm going to put some roost bars up here. Very simple roost bars that I can put up with a few screws and take down as necessary, because I want to get them roosting and used to roosting in here, so when they do grow up and I do open this door, every night they'll come back here and roost and I can shut it. Solid. I'll hold a few birds easily. Okay, we've got a good little roost house in here. There's plenty of places for the birds to roost. The one thing I'm going to need to be mindful of now, while these birds are still in here, I have their food and water in here. I don't want to place it underneath the drop zone of these roosting bars. Once they're out, I'll have the food and water out of their coop. But now that they're still in here, it still needs to stay in here with them. So I do need to keep an eye out for that to make sure that they're not pooping on their food and water. Otherwise, I like this. I'm hoping they explore this and start roosting up here tonight. Well, there's always stuff to do. There's always priorities to tackle, but there's always work getting done. And that's why I'm proud of the progress that we've made so far on this enclosure. Most of it's done. The gates are up. Most of the hog panels are up. At this point, we just need to put in a few latch posts, a few T-posts, and the rest of the panels. Maybe about 10 feet worth of panels between this spot and that spot. Then we can start working on the deep bedding, which is where I crossed my fingers about that IMO2 solution that I put together. The mold was a little bit darker than what I wanted it to be, but I'm still going to give it a shot. Worst case scenario, I have to make up some more rice and try it again, but I think we're going to be in a good place with it. So we'll get there when we get there, but in the meantime, no rush. Anyways, with all that being said, thanks for hanging out with us today. And until we see you again next time, remember, as always, slowly, slowly.